October 26th, Rory Lee Feek.
When the hard choice presents itself, do your own job and choose love. Almost done writing his third book, Rory noted that writing about this chapter in his life had been a whole lot easier than living it. The hearts of his daughters had been at stake. How he thought of himself as a Christian was at stake. The kind of man that he would be, the way he would choose to live, was at stake. At one of the toughest times in his life, he had just buried his young wife, Joey. Rory came home to the farmhouse to find his middle daughter, 27-year-old Hope, upset. Something was hurting her deeply, and she seemed afraid to tell him. He asked her what was wrong. "You won't understand," she answered through tears. "You'll judge me." "Just tell me, Hopi," Rory said again. "It's okay." And she did. Like Rory, Hope was a Christian, and now she sat at the kitchen table with him and told him that her friend Wendy was more than a friend, and had been more than a friend for a while. Hope told her dad she was gay, and Wendy and her were in love. To say the least, Rory felt surprised. A tear presented itself and ran down his face. "See, you're judging me," she said. And without even knowing, I was. She could see it on my face, see it in my eyes. Rory scrambled inside, try not to knee-jerk react. This was his daughter he loved, but he said things later he thought he should not have said. Reality was smacking hard right up against what he had always believed as a Christian, and his life united with Jesus was Rory's core. My conservative Christian faith was the first part of me to judge Hopi, he wrote. To want to push her away, to withhold love from her. And she could feel it, see it in my eyes, and in that moment, we had a conversation without any words. Her eyes were asking if he would still love her, and his eyes were answering. My eyes were hardening around the edges, just like my heart, he wrote. Probably not, they said as I looked away, more ashamed of what I was thinking than of what she had shared with me. This father and daughter, who loved each other and who belonged to Jesus, did not work through the issue that night. They went their separate ways. It took time to talk it through, for Rory to spend time with Wendy, to ask her questions, to know who she was. It took time to talk with the Lord about it, to know what to think, what to do. Rory described it. Hopi has made me rethink everything I have thought when it comes to some things, and in other ways, I'm still right where I always was. First off, I'm not the judge. That is not my job. I'm Hopi's father. My job is to love her. She gets to make her decisions in life, all of them. I can approve or disapprove, but it's her life, and she has the right to live it as she chooses. Rory wrote that this chapter in his life has been challenging. I've still got a long way to grow, but I believe that I'm getting there, and I cannot help but think, in the end, how can we lose if we choose love? In John 13:34 and 35, God tells us, "Love one another. As I have loved you, you must also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another."
SaferNet is a VPN designed for families. Get daily updates, block sites, and even disable apps. Earn crypto for just staying connected to your cybersecurity. Keep your family safe online. Choose SaferNet.
If someone you love dearly has made a life choice you do not support, have you asked God to help you work through it? When the hard choice presents itself, do your own job and choose love.
Hey man, Chuck Stecker here. I'm the executive director of A Chosen Generation, a teaching ministry for churches and others to help them understand the need and the power of an intergenerational culture. You know, I was so taken by this story by Rory Feek. Powerful story. You know, some conversations that I've had with people recently, and this started years ago. I think as Christians, one of the things that we do too easily is we say we understand when we really do not. And we'd be better off to say, my heart breaks for you. I love you. I'll pray for you. I can't even comprehend what you are going through. And you know, I think about this with Rory Feek, with his daughter, how afraid she was to tell her father, and in her own words, you will judge me. Wow. You know, there are many things that I believe that we've got to stand on, but one of those is love. And you say, how can you love someone whose life seems to be in direct conflict with what you believe as a Christian? Well, here's my point on this one. I'm very strong in my belief. I understand what I believe. I cannot tell you how I would have responded had it been my daughter or my son. I can't do that. I don't think you can either, unless as you're watching this, this has been your story too. But here's what I know. And I love the great old Christian movie Footloose. You know what I mean? I like the original version because there's a line in there that I've shared on multiple occasions with those that are identifying with what we would have called a gender dysphoria or the LGBT. Got it? And I don't think we have to compromise our values, but I have to strengthen our love. But in that movie, there is the scene where the father and the daughter have had this enormous conflict. And the mother has watched this where they're not speaking. Her heart is being torn apart. And this one scene in the old 50s, he's sitting in the overstuffed chair with the ottoman. You know what I mean. And his daughter comes in and she sits on the floor and she's leaning there and she's got to break the ice. But one of the things she says to her dad, she talks about how much she loved to listen to him preach. And she talked about not believing some of those things anymore. And that had caused this really Grand Canyon to erode their relationship, divide them. But here's the statement. And the statement was, she said, Dad, we may not believe in the same things, but I believe in you. I want you to think about that, because I'm going to tell you there's somebody in your life that needs to hear that from you. We can say, well, I don't really have anybody in that gender issue. Really? How about the political arena that's dividing us? I can take us through fathers that struggle with their own kids and, you know, so many different things. But one of the things, and I've told so many people that have identified within the gender issues, God calls me to love first, and I'm committed to that. But the idea is we may not believe the same things, but that doesn't keep me from believing in you. Who needs to hear that from you today?